don't think Viserys ever really wanted Rhaenyra to rule. Dun 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 dun. Hello, it's Anastasia. Again, another House of the Dragon video. I know this isn't going to be all my content, and change of location, sorry for the lighting, this was the best that I could get it. So make it a short intro. You can follow me on my social media here, Instagram, Twitter, Substack, and TikTok, all linked down below. Before we begin, I also want to say that if you want to help Waleed and his family escape from Gaza and receive medical services from being trapped in the rubble of their house, experiencing starvation and a lack of medical care, you can. Their GoFundMe is down below. I think we can just keep helping them get closer to their goal of being able to finally escape, him and the rest of his family. That'll be down below, and I'll also have it again at the end of this video. So yeah, I want to begin with thank you so much for the love and support of my last video regarding Alicent. And I posted on Twitter, and so many people were so warm and receptive, and I think a lot of people liked it. And I'm still working out the kinks of making House of Dragon content and just like long form content in general, and like filming and editing and all those things, and working on getting my thoughts as coherent as possible. But just thank you all for like all the views and stuff. So since my last video was basically defending Alicent and basically saying that she and herself is not the cause of the civil war, I think it would be best for me to follow up with the second video basically saying who I really think is the initial most responsible factor for the Dance of the Dragons. And in my opinion, it's Viserys. Now, House of the Dragon paints Viserys as like the only sane one, as like a sympathetic figure. Like you've seen that meme of Ben Affleck turned into him, like Viserys all the time. We're like, oh, Viserys looking down from heaven. And it's like, this man is cruel and evil, and actually he is like the villain. Like if you would take out all of the political machinations that led to the dance, his actions, and more so his inactions, are like the initial domino that led to majority of his family dying. So let's just start from like the first episode. In the first episode, we see Viserys, he has like a teenage daughter, Rhaenyra, and his wife, Emma, is pregnant with like her 5th pregnancy. And she tells him, this is his wife who he married when she was 13, by the way.
Certified lover boy, certified pedophiles.
Telling him that this is like her last pregnancy. And at the end of that first episode, he literally kills his wife. I know a lot of people just say that she died in childbirth, but he was explicitly given a choice by the maesters that he could save her or save the boy. And at the possibility of that child being a boy, he valued that more than his wife that he had been with for over 10 years. Or any consideration of what her death would do to his already alive child. He did not care. He did not care about his wife. And they literally killed this woman. I don't see how we can interpret that as any other thing but murder. And then after the funeral, Alicent is basically forced by her father to go into the room and comfort him. And just like she sits with him and reads a book and like lets him talk about his little Lego sculpture. And he literally tells her not to tell Rhaenyra of this and that she wouldn't understand. So like the implication of not just an adult, but also someone who has that much power over Alicent, telling her to keep this a secret and, you know, all that stuff. It's grooming. It's the initial grooming process. I know a lot of people put this on Otto, and while I do think that Otto is responsible for this, Otto knew what he was doing. Alicent was very clearly uncomfortable with the idea of this, but how can you not also, like, when we go on to later see when the next like episode is all of the men, basically everyone at court kind of pushing Viserys or talking about Viserys remarrying, and then Corlys puts up like 12-year-old Lena, and it's like, it's kind of interesting that like every man there knows that like kid is your type.
Certified lover boy, certified pedophiles.
Why does everyone know that they can put their like teenage under 15-year-old daughter, and that's what you like? That's what you would be acceptable for. And even though he's like grossed out by Lena because she's such a child, he's fine with Alicent. It's still weird. Alicent was still a child. And so then he marries Alicent, and she continues to be the victim of marital rape and being a child bride and being a teenage mother very quickly. Like she has Aegon at 15, has Helena at 17, and then Aemond at 18. I have no idea how old Daeron would be in the series, but having 3 kids within 3 years is insane. Especially on the teenage body, which pregnancy for teenagers is dangerous. And then we see that Viserys has leprosy and he does not treat it. And like the actors were saying that this was because of his guilt with Emma, but like he knowingly has is in such close contact with Alicent and refuses to get that treated, and it could actively she can contract that and it could kill her or cause a series of complications during pregnancy. The lack of consideration for literally anyone else is astounding. And speaking on lack of consideration, he doesn't consider how marrying your daughter's best friend would impact your daughter. I genuinely don't know the thought process here besides what he wanted. He views women as just ways to get sons, not as a way for him to get this fantasy family instead of them being their own people. They are just parts of his life and his dream, okay? And so he, especially when he's trying to get Rhaenyra to be more receptive to the idea of marrying, he's like, you've been alone and angry in your grief. And she's like, and you think a man will fix that? He really thinks that if she has a family, that will help her take her mind off of grieving her mother, because he did not consider that her being a teenage girl, how influential her mom would be in her life. He doesn't really consider how she lost something as well, that he took something away from her as well, and he thinks that just having a family is going to fix that. A lot of people think that Viserys is such a great father to Rhaenyra, but I have to disagree. Out of all relationships with his 5 children, I definitely would say that his relationship with Rhaenyra is the best, okay? But that only happens when she's an adult. When she's a child, that doesn't happen. After her, I think it's before her mom's funeral or after the mom's funeral, she says to Daemon, I hope in the hour that my brother was alive, that my dad was happy. Why would your dad not be happy with just you? She's aware that her being a girl is a disappointment. She is aware that he's not satisfied with just her. She is not enough to him. This thing of his kids not being enough carries on to his later 4 children with Alicent, because instead of having that boy, he replaces wanting the boy as the heir with Rhaenyra being his heir, and he accepts that. So then it's only focusing on the heir, and then everything else is just pushed into the rear view mirror, essentially. And the reason that he's a better dad to Rhaenyra when she's older and after he remarries is because he's not doing it just to be close to Rhaenyra. He's doing it because Rhaenyra is the only link he has to Emma, and he wants to be closer to her. When Rhaenyra leaves the Red Keep and goes to Dragonstone, he kisses Emma's ring that he has on his finger. It's not because of his daughter, it's because of his dead wife that he killed and his regret over that. Let's get on to the other kids. Absentee fathers, where the fathers are not in the home. We do not see Viserys have a singular scene with him and Helena or him and Aemond just alone. We see him have a scene with Aegon, but that's when Aegon is a baby and he can project all the feelings he wanted the son Balon that died in the first episode onto Aegon. It's all a projection. It's not actually that he wanted Aegon. He wanted to replace the other son. And the only thing that he does is just have people fawn over how much his son looks like him and all those things. It's nothing really parenting wise. We see Alicent do and her ladies do all the holding, all the stuff with Helena and with Aegon, and even in that episode, second of his name, Alicent is heavily pregnant, being taken on this hunt, which is probably very severe for how late in her pregnancy she is, and she is the one holding the baby. She's holding this kid standing up pregnant while the men are sitting down. There's, again, not a consideration. And then in that episode, he tells Alicent that he thinks maybe this was a mistake. That conversation by the fire, essentially, Viserys is telling her that, maybe he had this idea of, a prince that was promised, but maybe he's wrong. After she's gone through all of this, he's saying that to her while she's heavily pregnant, gonna have to give birth again. This is insane. This man is really fucked up, y'all. This man is terrible. And then when we get to Driftmark, Rhaenyra has her own kids, and it seemed Viserys prioritizes Rhaenyra's kids over his own children. And especially in the books, in the books, it was that he would have Jace on his lap and overlook a kingdom, a map of the kingdom, this is all going to be yours one day, and that he taunts Aemon for not having a dragon, and He's not a good father to them. And so at Driftmark, when Aemon has been assaulted, okay, regardless how you feel about that, this boy has lost an eye and is in pain. And his dad's like, look at me. And it's like, you're saying that to a person with one eye now? And then the whole conversation shifts from the fact that these kids were fighting and someone got seriously hurt, and to defending Rhaenyra and the fact that everybody knows that her kids are bastards. Showing Alicent and his kids, that when Alicent's like, this is your son, Viserys, like, are you for real right now? Like, he's not willing to do anything to give any justice, not even an apology for it. It's just about protecting Rhaenyra, that the protecting her and protecting a lie is more important than protecting them. And they will be yelled at and shamed for telling the truth. Like, that, honestly, that was kind of crazy, because I see why Alicent snapped, because everyone was playing in her face right now after her kid just got attacked, like, is missing a fucking eye. Like, this is crazy that we're talking about whether or not these kids are bastards. Who cares? This kid doesn't have an eye. And this just leads me to, like, he could have just prevented so much. Firstly, Viserys didn't have to get married. He didn't have to. Viserys could have 100% prevented this, and I think the reason he didn't is because I don't think Viserys ever really wanted Rhaenyra to rule. I think he wanted her to be queen, but I didn't think he want her. I think he envisioned that as men around her would just really take so much of the leadership role, and so he just turned a blind eye and just instilled her as the heir. But did he do enough to stop the contentiousness within his family, stop the factionhood within his family, wake up to the political machinations and the manipulations from Otto and Larys and things like that? No, he didn't. Okay, first off, he didn't have to get married. He could have not gotten married, like his own father didn't get married. He didn't need to. If you already have an heir, so what is the point of having these other children? One. And the fact that him having that heir or having a boy, it would lay some damage to Rhaenyra's claim, or unsteadiness, him choosing to have another child and the possibility of that kid being a boy literally was going to lower her claim, because why should they break from tradition if he's going to have another son? But he didn't plan on it when he named her heir, but you still went and had another kid. You could have just not done that. Secondly, I don't think he ever really wanted her to rule, because the way that he positioned Rhaenyra when she was made heir was a cupbearer. She was there to be in service of the men in the small council meeting. And while yes, she's around them, she's absorbing stuff, when she was giving advice, they all looked at her like they didn't want her to put her voice in. Okay, so she's positioned, even though she's supposed to be the heir, not as equal. And also the gender dynamics of her serving these men. Even Rhaenys in one episode, she's like, you really think they take you seriously when you fill up their cups? Really? He's doing things that don't really assert Rhaenyra's capabilities and powers. Thirdly, the bastards. Okay, I'm gonna have to include the whole thing about her kids being bastards in another video, because it's kind of crazy. People saying, oh, they're not bastards. Oh, okay. Okay, they are, but let's just keep going. Okay, sure, whatever you want to say. It would have been better if they all publicly acknowledged that those kids were bastards and then legitimized them. That would have been better than just pretending that they aren't bastards when they are. You know what I mean? And fourth, how did he not notice that there were two rival factions regarding the succession after he died? How did he not notice that before his last dinner? How did he not notice that? You didn't notice that your younger 4 kids only wore green? You didn't think that was weird or suspicious or anything? You didn't notice the fact that how you knew Otto wanted to push your blood off the throne and advance his own in the early parts of season 1, but then after Lionel Strong dies, then you bring Otto back, even though you thought that he was purposely doing things to oust your own blood. Okay, you didn't think that was weird? You didn't think that was weird at all? Also, when it comes to Viserys and the way that he treats Rhaenyra, it's in season 2, she talks about how she was knowledgeable about all the lords and castles, but not other things, and how she's lacking knowledge when it comes to war and strategy, where it's if you were somewhat cognizant of the fact that if there was this divisiveness within your family, why did you not fully prepare Rhaenyra for the event that there would be war? And just war in general. Like, this is another thing where it's like, not even war, like a civil war, but like a war in the stepstones, which he experienced as king. Like, he deprived her of education, and the show at least. Yeah, I think that this man, in his own fantasy of his kingship, his own fantasy of what his family should be, didn't prepare his daughter well enough, literally ruined her relationship with her friend, took so much away from Alicent's life, and negatively impacted his own children, all of them, and led to all of his kids' deaths. Like, all of his kids die. The only people that live are his 2 grandchildren. No. Yeah. The only 2 surviving members of his family are his 2 grandchildren and nieces. But that's literally it. And all of this could have prevented, like, maybe don't get remarried. Maybe make your daughter, like, there's a reason that Rhaenyra had such little confidence and needed to be affirmed and affirmed and affirmed and affirmed again, even in season 2, because he was not affirming her, letting her know this was the right decision, empowering her and all these things, so she felt super confident. Like, he's not a good person. He's not a good dad. He's not a good father. He's not a good husband. And he's not a good king. He's not a good person at all. So yeah, he is the villain. This man is the villain. I felt this way since watching season 1. So anyways, again, all my social medias, all over the screen. Link to Waleed and his family's GoFundMe down below. If you can share and contribute even a little bit, it would mean so much. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.